Good morning, everybody. Brandon here with WX Live with your tropical update. It's currently Thursday, October 23rd, 2025 at 5:15 a.m. And here is the latest and greatest on Tropical Storm Melissa, soon to be Hurricane Melissa, soon to be Major Hurricane Melissa in the southern Caribbean right now. The big story today is, of course, the storm is still meandering here. Not a whole lot of steering flow to speak of, which we'll look at in a minute. The big story, though, is the rapid intensification it's about to go through and could be flirting with a couple of records, not the good kind of record. And we'll show that in our modeling coming up here in a minute. But the major threat right now is going to be major flooding to the island of Jamaica. If you're in Jamaica right now, you need to activate your emergency plan, get to high ground. There are some forecasts up to 2 feet of rain in Jamaica, which will most certainly cause, it's a mountainous country, most likely cause mudslides, things of that nature. If you're in Jamaica, you need to get to high ground, activate your emergency plan, stay safe out there. And we'll show all that here in just a minute. We're going to start off, though, with the National Hurricane Center's official forecast track. Pretty standard. They did shift a little more west than they had it yesterday. They're saying that this storm, as a Category 4 hurricane, is going to get all the way to the west of Jamaica here. And then eventually make, from the modeling, we'll see, make some sort of turn to the northeast. Cuba is looking like it's going to get a direct hit from a very powerful hurricane and then off into the Bahamas. But right now we're more worried about that catastrophic flooding to the island of Jamaica. That northern part of the storm is the wet part. So we'll see all that in a second. But more west than it was yesterday, and the timing of this turn we'll talk about in a second is still a little shaky right now. It is pretty high confidence that a turn is going to happen. At this time, I don't really believe that the Gulf is in play anymore because of a high pressure system that's building over it. Pretty unlikely, but if this thing does continue to go west, impacts to the very southern tip of Florida are not out of the realm of possibility, and we'll look at that here in just a second when we look at our modeling. So let's move on to our satellite view of the storm. As you can see today, it's extremely unorganized. The low pressure system, or the low pressure center, is actually located in here somewhere. And on it's just, a bunch of convection, very disorganized, clouds moving in every direction in this photo. No really, center of circulation visible to see. It is there from the Hurricane Hunters reports. But, just a very disorganized storm at the moment. It will get its act together here soon. Okay, so let's talk about what's kind of influencing the storm right now as far as upper level steering. There is a high pressure system kind of over Mexico, like I've said many times in the last few days. And then other than that, there's really just nothing in this entire area to kind of influence the storm. And we'll look at that in a second with the better kind of modeling data of the upper atmosphere. But very interesting. I mean, there's really no steering current to speak of at all in this area right now. So the storm is just going to sit there, and it can be a good thing and a bad thing. There is a lot of warm air and warm ocean in this area. But, the more powerful the storm gets, if it's just going to continue to sit over the same spot, it will churn up colder water from deeper in the ocean and kind of cut off its power supply to kind of feed it. Now, that's not what's going to happen. As you'll see in a minute, this thing is going to become extremely powerful. But if it continues to sit after that, it will kind of like self-limit itself. So if there's any silver lining here, it is that. But like I said earlier, there's really no steering currents to speak of right now. There will be a low pressure system that eventually dips over the southern United States that will pick the storm up and carry it northeastward out into the ocean. The real question is, what is the timing? How far west does this storm get before that low pressure trough builds in and drags it out to the northeast? The National Hurricane Center thinks it's going to be somewhere in this area, when that happens, and then this way. And then the Google DeepMind model says this, Euro says this, the Euro mean says this, and there are a couple of outliers, which we'll show you in a minute, that do kind of have it skirting the bottom half of Florida. And so really, just like with everything hurricane, the question is timing. Right? When is that trough going to settle in here? When is it going to pick it up and move it to the northeast? How far west does it get? These are all the questions that we're looking to answer in the coming days. Taking a look at the water vapor loop here, I just want to show you this, kind of show you the healthy nature of the system right now. It's sitting in a really nice clean pocket of tropical moisture right now. There's this white area. There's some dry air over Cuba and over the Bahamas, but right now it's not being entrained into the system, and the system has a really nice exhaust formed out the top like I was talking about earlier, and it's kind of keeping all that dry air pushed out and making a nice warm tropical pocket for itself down here in the Southern Caribbean. And really, because there's no steering currents, not a whole lot of shear. I mean, this area here is very low in vertical shear that it's about to move into over the next couple of days. I mean, there's really nothing stopping this storm from absolutely going like super critical in the next couple of days, and we'll be looking at that here in a minute. Okay, so here's the 500 millibar height kind of steering current map. I did want to go over kind of like what you're looking at, because I noticed a lot of the weather guys on YouTube and other places, they'll kind of just show you a map and run through it, and they really won't go through kind of like what you're looking at or what to look at or what this map even represents. What this map represents is what's going on in the atmosphere 500 millibars up, which means how high do you need to be for there to be a 500 millibar pressure. Now, basically, in layman's terms, this is looking at what's happening in the atmosphere roughly 18,000 feet in the air. The blue that you see here, these are called low pressure troughs. They are kind of like, if you kind of look at this map as a topographical map of the, like if you're looking at a topographical map of like say a mountain range or something like that in heights. So these are kind of like heights in the atmosphere, and the red areas are what we call high pressure ridges. So think of the red area as big mountain peaks and the blue areas as valleys in the atmosphere. Storm systems typically like to ride around the edges of these peaks and these valleys, right? And where these peaks and these valleys meet, we also have things like fronts, jet streams, etc. So that's kind of like what you're looking at, and that kind of will help you understand what you're about to see on the map. Okay, so moving forward a little bit here, this is 0 hour on the 0Z run of the Euro 500 millibar geopotential height map. So moving forward here, you see our little system down here in the Southern Caribbean. And the big thing to take away from this map is everything is white, meaning it's neutral, it's flat. Everything is exactly how it's supposed to be in the atmosphere. There's no big high pressure. There's no big low pressure trough. There's nothing to really move the storm right now. And that's why you're seeing it kind of just stall down here, because it's calm. There's nothing moving it. And we keep going forward. This is 33 hours, 36 hours into the forecast. I mean, look at this. It's just white. There's nothing at all to steer this hurricane at 18,000 feet. And it's just going to sit there in a very low shear, steering environment and continue to get stronger. Now, like I said before, if it does continue to sit in the same exact spot, we all know that hurricanes need hot water to intensify and to sustain themselves. If it does continue to sit in the same exact spot for multiple days, it will eventually churn cold water up from the bottom of the ocean, and it will weaken. But right now, I mean, it's moving ever so slightly, just enough, and the water is so hot near the equator and so warm that it's going to continue to feed itself. But as it gets further north and further west, if it continues to jog like this, it will basically self-limit itself and choke itself off of its own fuel, basically. So moving forward, still, this is 72 hours into the forecast. Nothing to speak of. And we start to get a little hint of something here over eastern Texas, a little weak low pressure trough kind of moving easterly across the United States. Still nothing. And then eventually we do get a nice deep trough that kind of burrows in, over the Carolinas, and kind of makes the jet stream. These really tight lines represent the the height differences. And when you get a lot of lines closer together, you have really fast, really powerful winds aloft running along the ridge of that trough, and those winds and that trough are going to pick up this hurricane and move it northeasterly eventually. So you kind of see it here, and then you'll see how that trough kind of envelops the storm, and then the storm wants to move parallel to the jet stream, parallel to the winds of this trough right here. And it's going to pick it up and move it northeasterly out to sea. Now, the real question is, the timing of that. So here on the European, you see that the storm gets just to the west of Jamaica, right exactly where the National Hurricane Center has it on their map. And that's the last data point the National Hurricane Center has. And then it continues moving, and then it takes that really sharp turn to the northeast and clips that western side of Jamaica. A direct hit with the eastern side of Cuba, and then off into the ocean. Now, this particular model run, this particular one, I don't really have a huge amount of confidence in. I do like the turn. I like in general what it's doing with this low pressure building over the southeastern United States. But I think the path will be more something, because it has it kind of going like this and making this sharp turn and going this way. And I think it's going to do something more along what the Google DeepMind, which you'll see in a minute, and the other models say, and kind of do this more gradual turn like this and threaten the Bahamas and have a direct impact on the middle of Cuba. Now, one thing to remember, guys, is that Cuba is very mountainous, and hurricanes don't like mountains. So if it goes over this thing as a 5 or a 4, it'll probably come out as a 2, 3, 2, or 1 on the other side, sparing the Bahamas from another large hit. But that's still something we'll have to figure out. It's not well forecast at this time. So anyways, one more run through here. You see this trough kind of building over the southeastern United States, a big dip in the jet stream, and finally we have something to influence the storm, and it picks it up and moves it out. And that is what's going to happen. We just need to know the timing, right? How far west is this storm going to jog? Because there's really no steering currents, it's really hard to forecast where this storm is going to go. Is it going to be, when it finally gets picked up, is it going to be here? Is it going to be here? Is it going to be here? Is it going to be... Nobody really knows, and that's why it could even be here. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like why I say if you're in Jamaica, you need to activate your emergency preparedness now. It is not out of the realm of possibility that you get dumped on by rain for 3 or 4 days with this thing, 2+ feet of rain, and then it turns and gives you a direct hit. Obviously, we don't want to see that, but it's not out of the realm of the possibility right now. If you're in Cuba, folks in Cuba, Guantanamo Bay, those areas, you are looking at, potentially a direct hit from a really powerful hurricane. Folks in the Bahamas, and we need to be paying attention to this as well. Less so for the southern United States. There is some modeling, some possibility that if this storm gets further to the west, it could, when it turns, clip the Keys and kind of the Miami area, but that is the outlier of the outlier right now. We really don't think it's going to enter into the Gulf area as of right now. Now, if the National Hurricane Center and these models keep giving this thing further and further west, this does put the Gulf and Florida back into play, but as of right now, it's more of an outlier than anything. I would say if you live in southern Florida, Miami, or the Keys, keep an eye on the storm, but we're not necessarily in prep mode yet. Bahamas, you are going to see some sort of impact, I think, from this storm. Cuba, and then the island of Jamaica, if you're not already in your emergency preparedness, you need to be very soon. Catastrophic rains, like I said before, will be hitting the island, and you need to get to your safe spot now. Okay, so this is the HAFS B model. So this is a model that's run by the National Hurricane Center in NOAA, specifically for the Atlanta Basin. It incorporates a lot of their it's called a high data basin model. So the Atlantic Basin is a really high data. It incorporates their Hurricane Hunter flights, buoys, everything into this model, and does a really good job of showing intensity. Okay, so this is 27 hours from right now. It's already expecting a 990, 987. So what you're really going to be wanting to look at when I run this model run is this number right here in the middle. This is the millibars. This is how low the pressure gets. The record pressure on record for an Atlantic hurricane is Hurricane Wilma. In 2005, it had a barometric pressure of 882. Generally, the lower the pressure is, the higher the wind speeds, the more stronger the storm is. So take a look at this center number as it approaches Jamaica. And let's see what this model has at 962, 955, 950, 945. So right here, even like 938, we're at a powerful major hurricane here, folks, at 938. And you think, wow, that's really strong. Category 4 hurricane. Couldn't possibly get any stronger, right? So 934, 930, 929, 928, 923, 922, 13, 903. This is getting kind of scary. 893, 888. That's the lowest I saw on this particular forecast run. 888 millibars is stupid strong. That is well within the category, well within category 5. I mean, category 5 is like 930, 925-ish area, and we're down here at 888. And remember, like I said, the record is Hurricane Wilma in 2005 with 882 millibars measured. So this is flirting with that, folks. I mean, this thing is going to go absolutely critical. It is going to blow up. There is nothing stopping it from getting strong. Unfortunately, no shear. The ocean is really hot right now, and it's just a perfect environment for this strength. And like I said before, look at all this rainfall getting pushed up and storm surge getting pushed up in Jamaica. You know, there are some forecasts up to two or 3 feet of rain hitting Jamaica in certain spots. So folks in Jamaica really need to take this storm seriously. But at 888, good gracious, that is so strong. 889, 893, and it kind of starts, you know, as it's interacting with the island of Jamaica and getting in the more shallower, you know, waters around the island, it starts losing a little bit of its intensity. But man, that is so strong. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the European ensembles here. Just a quick look at them. I mean, we already kind of went over the steering flow and what's kind of going on, but it's worth looking at each one of these members here. You can see that there is a very broad, one thing to mark is that it's broad. It's quite broad, right? So it's not a very tight, packed kind of consensus. I mean, the European is basically saying that the hurricane could be anywhere within this circle 84 hours from now. Which, you know, I believe, because there's, like I said before, there's not much steering influence on this hurricane, so it can kind of just meander wherever it wants. And then eventually that low pressure system moves in and it gets picked up. And see, this is what I was talking about with the outliers. See, you've got some that are doing, you know, a hit on eastern Cuba. You got some that take it through Jamaica. You've got some that, you know, central Cuba, and you got 1 or 2 models that kind of skirt a little too close for comfort into the Florida Peninsula there. Like I said before, it really just matters on where this thing takes its turn. All right, so going over to the Google DeepMind model. The Google DeepMind model has been very good this year. It's not a traditional weather model. Basically, it uses AI to try to predict where the hurricane is going to go based off training data, you know, past data and things of that nature. It doesn't actually simulate the physics, but it does a really great job. And it's saying this thing's going to jog to the northwest and then back to the northeast, which isn't really on the National Hurricane Center's forecast, and then it kind of goes just to the south of Jamaica, takes a right and goes right through Jamaica as a category 3 hurricane. Some things about this model: I think the intensity is a little low here. I think by this point it will be a heavy 3 or a 4, possibly a 5 given this, but like I said, the waters are a little more shallow to around Jamaica, so it could limit its intensity. And then also Jamaica's mountainous itself, which will kick its intensity down on the other side. But I don't think it's going to turn this early based on what I've seen in other modeling and with the National Hurricane Center's forecast. But that's why I was saying earlier, you guys got to be prepared, because, you know, there are some models that are taking that early turn into Jamaica and then over eastern part of Cuba here. And as you can see, as it goes over Cuba, it loses some intensity and then picks it right back up again as it goes off on the other side, and then gets, you know, near Bermuda and dies out. But one thing I want to do is look at the ensemble spaghetti here. You've got, you know, 5 or 6 models members here saying that the Bahamas are in play, and you've got other models saying that it's going to miss everything, go in between them. You got some models saying Haiti's in play, so we really need to be paying attention. I think the consensus is more west than this model shows right now. So probably something like this one right here. I think is a little more reasonable than this model is showing, but we'll see. I'm excited to see who's right. You know, this, like I said, this model has been doing really good for us all year. So keep an eye on that, folks. So I just want to show you this real quick. This is the National Hurricane Center's rainfall forecast for Tropical Storm Melissa, and you're looking at it and you're saying, well, Brandon, it only says 4 to 6 inches on Jamaica. Well, this model only goes 3 days out, and as we've seen from all the modeling, it's going to be probably later half of the weekend before it even reaches over this part. So as the storm continues to move further and further and further west, this graphic will be updated, but I did want to show you to you so you can see what the potential is. If this kind of outer northern area kind of goes over Jamaica for a few days, I mean, this pink in here is 20 to 30 inches of rain over 3 days. This brown area is 16 to 20 inches of rain over 3 days. So if there's parts of Jamaica that kind of get clipped by this pink and this brown area, that's big trouble, and we don't want to see that. So just finishing off with the National Hurricane Center's official forecast track. I know I already showed this, but now that you have all the information, you can kind of see where the National Hurricane Center is going. They don't really have anything after this point here, but if I had to guess, it would probably be something along these lines here. And yeah, so that is all the information I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe so you can always stay updated, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.